is going to join us tonight, and he's going to give us an update on 3rd Street design work. Just, there's not a lot of update, but we want to talk about what we know. We could add that to the agenda first thing.
Sure.
So an update, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, just share information.
Right after our consent agenda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oops. We're all set, sorry. I was still looking at the screen. All right, so we are all ready to start our regular city council meeting. It is 6:32. With us this evening, Craig Schulte, Ben Peters, myself, Michael Gary, Mike Roth, Kim Van Beck, and Patrick Knight. City attorney?
Yes. Chris is here.
Chris is here, okay. And then one guest. All right. Is there anyone here for open forum? And with the look of the empty chairs, I will say there is no one. With that, we'll move to the consent agenda. On there, besides meeting minutes and bills, is one library hire and then the co-op pond construction contract, which we spoke about at our last meeting and reviewed. Would anyone like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Then we'd like to have an update with John Loy with the engineering.
Hi, John.
Hi.
So one of the things I asked John to do is if he could help us understand before the whole design work is done, what it would take to actually just do the utility extension further, because that was one of the questions that you had at your last meeting. So he's done some looking at that and has some information that he can share with us about it.
Yes, we looked at, extending it from what John Petters would be putting in from his property, going west to 7th Street. And it's roughly another 150 feet. And we figured neglecting rock, that additional cost is somewhere 25 to 30,000. For construction, rock is the big unknown. I did some rough calcs on that, and it's about, my best guess is about $4,200 per vertical foot of rock over that distance. So if you've got 3 feet of rock over that, you're looking at 15-ish thousand for rock removal on top of the utility cost.
On top of the 25?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's
So-
8 feet of rock.
You got 8 feet of rock, it's,
Another 30,
real quick,
another 40.
probably 35-ish, yeah.
Might as
So,
well consider that.
which would, push that cost up significantly. At these prices, we looked at some other projects that we've been involved with and kind of our best guess at what it looks like based on other prices that have come in.
So I think it's a pretty safe bet we're gonna run into some rock, because you can see it, right, on the surface in some places.
Right.
We don't know for sure how much the entire length of that would run, and we can't know until we actually do it. Unless we wanted to spend a lot of money on investigating, but it probably wouldn't be money well spent, because I think we just know we're gonna run into rock.
I would guess that if you were to get, a geotech report and have borings done, that you'd be easily into 10 grand to get someone out of Duluth up there and do some drilling.
It's 2 feet of rock right there.
Yeah, get a lot of digging done for that.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Were there other things you were asking to provide us information on, or is that the primary one?
That's the primary one. So there were two, what I'd say are contingencies that were attached to your approval for the development agreement last meeting. One of them was you want to investigate the extension of utilities. And I think this is probably all we're gonna learn about that, and now you can decide how you wanna move forward on that. The other question was to coordinate our construction with Petter's project, and that, I don't think we need to spend any time talking about that at a council level. We'll make sure that happens, so.
Got it.
Okay.
So I think now it's in your hands to let me know what do you wanna do moving forward? Should we continue to talk about this? Do you need some time to look at it? You wanna add it to an agenda to discuss it? You just let me know. Or is it a crazy number and you don't wanna ever hear about it again? No takers, huh?
You gotta be scared about 8 feet, 10 feet of rock. It just doesn't serve us that many, it doesn't provide us a lot of.
You mean to extend it to 7?
I didn't envision this as a total absorb for the city.
Oh, okay.
That's
So we
it.
should have more conversation then.
That's how I viewed it, is when I said that, and I viewed that also with the street, with the pavement piece too.
Sure.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but that's how I was looking at it, because either way you're increasing people's property values. And we've already heard expressed interest from other landowners about 7th. I don't know, that's kind of where I thought, having these dollar amounts, but then that's the kind of part I was thinking
Yeah,
about.
so that extra half a block, if I'm hearing this conversation, then the prior conversation creates about $50,000 is what we're sort of like placeholding.
I think that sounds about right.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's.
Otherwise, I know what you're saying, otherwise like whatever, but, and I still feel like cat's out of the bag around that whole area as far as what the future holds, so that's the other part I think about. You guys could feel differently too, so that's important to know. But does that mean we need to put that on for a line item?
I think if you, yeah, I mean, just to, I won't take too much time, but if you back up, like one of our priorities, in housing in general or whatever, was that we wanted to focus on infill opportunities, right? And that doesn't mean that necessarily the people that are jumping at the bit to just go and put a project together, but it's like, we need to provide the service to these potential properties for 50 years down the road, 30 years down the road, whoever owns them, right? So, it may not be extraordinarily popular at the front side of it, but we did make a commitment that this is how we wanted to see housing developed in Grand Marais.
Right.
And now we have an opportunity, and the road's ripped up, $50,000, and if we figure out how that's allocated, fine, but I still think we should do the project.
Yeah, I guess that's part of it. It gets back to that whole efficiency. it's not gonna get cheaper and we've already got it dug up, it would cost more if we had to do that. And we also before said, you know, one of our issues was make sure we're linking up to those streets and not blocking up other people's access. Well, this is an accomplishment, you know, it feels more consistent to that logic.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of sit about it. But I do think that requires more conversation as far as cost allocation, because we haven't had
100%, yeah.
conversation about that, but
You've had conversations about that, not about this specific piece. The last really clear message from the council was you don't want to do assessments.
Right.
So we didn't make that option go away, we just paused that piece and we can pick it up again. But if you want that to be an option, then my recommendation is that we set an improvement hearing and invite the potential folks that might be affected by an assessment to an improvement hearing to talk about it. And then we're moving forward on the, if you still wanna consider assessments, that's the next step in that chain. You can have the conversation at the same time with the people here.
It doesn't mean that we have to execute the assessment,
Right.
but it means that but no matter what, if we want to, then we have to have that hearing.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, then I would like to say we should do that.
Okay, so I think, because the coordination of this project is also on your list, timing for us to go through the consideration process, forget that for a second. Let's say everybody said all systems go right now. I don't think that it's super realistic to expect this project to be done this year. You probably were all thinking that already. I don't know that everyone involved in the project was thinking that, but certainly, John, you would say it might be really tough to get this done this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you got the go-ahead, you got 2 weeks of advertising. And then, you know, bid opening and then go forward.
And so and then mobilizing and then actually doing the project. But you're not even gonna start until potentially October. So this, like I said, you probably were already thinking this, so it's not news to you, but I just wanna make sure it's out in the open that we're talking about the scheduling of this.
Sure.
I think there's ample time for us to continue the conversation about assessments and you get to make your decision about that with a planned project to happen probably first thing next year.
I think we're coming up on September, I think the likelihood of that project getting completed this year anyway
Yeah.
is not,
Really low.
right.
Yeah, so we might as well continue this conversation.
Yeah.
okay. Is there anything else you need officially about that?
No, so next step will be, I'll bring a resolution to your next meeting that will schedule an improvement hearing. And then what will happen after that is we'll actually send notice out to the folks that we think might be affected by this and invite them to the hearing and publish notice of it generally.
Okay.
And we'll be pretty broad about who we think might be affected by it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you very much, John.
Yeah.
Okay, if that, Mike, if you need anything, just let me know.
Will do.
Okay.
All right, that was good, thanks. Next up, a donation and or discount policy. I asked Mike to help us with this. It's been some years since we've had a conversation about this. And it kind of timed out, I think, when the county was also in process of changing some of the way they handled requests for dollars. And then we didn't do anything super official, other than say it wasn't really our thing, but we didn't really set a policy. And with what, we've already had one request, and I don't know if any of you had a chance to read the article around the Violence Prevention Center and kind of timed it a little bit there's some commentary from the county commission as well about that.
Mhm.
And just knowing where things are right now with funding as it sort of does the trickle down, I can
Right.
see where there could be needs of a variety of sort. And I think it would be really nice for the city, and not just nice, imperative that we have a policy that we're going to follow. And Mike supplied us with League of Minnesota guidelines about how we can spend money generally, but it gets into those details and get us rolling in that, so when things come up, we know where we're headed with it and we make consistent decisions, whatever it is
Mhm.
on that, so. First and foremost, I guess we can start on the one end of we don't make donations to are there areas where we would, and there's clearly events we do such as the fireworks, and that is something the city can do, like 4th of July. You see certain events that are really clear.
It's not
But
really a
those are-
donation though, because
but
we're
it's-
paying the bill.
Right, but it's a
Fireworks
city
company.
event
Yeah.
as opposed to when another organization
Mhm.
comes to ask us for dollars. Any initial thoughts or comments to get the conversation started?
So we generally haven't, but we have, is what we're,
Well, I would say that our record of giving money for donations is pretty limited. And usually there's some kind of one-time event associated with it. Like when Violence Prevention Center came and asked for money a couple of years ago from you, it was because we had received a grant from I think it was from the federal government, that one of the authorized uses was specifically for them. And so they were asking if they could have some of it, and so we said yes, but it wasn't like there's a budgeted line item and we've got a program where we're taking applications and making evaluations. It was an opportunity that showed up, and you were willing to do that. Other times, the example, for instance, that I put in the memo, when if I don't remember who was here when the organization came and wanted to do a charity tournament at the golf course, but they wanted to do it during a peak weekend day, and so that's clearly, that sort of discount would clearly be a donation, because we wouldn't give anybody a discount on a peak weekend day. That's when we're making our money at the golf course. So then if we're given a discount, we have to have the legal authority to spend that as a donation, and we have to have a policy that says why we're going to do it. And instead we said maybe it would be better to just consider the business side of things. There are definitely days when we would be happy to give donated, discounted rates to get more players at the golf course, just from a business perspective. So that would clearly have a legal authority to do that, but it's not a donation anymore.
Or giving discounted rate for locals or city taxpayers or residents, which we currently do.
council, right?
Yeah, but and you can see, if you look through the legal authority memo from the league, they talk specifically about that type of activity. And we actually have pretty limited authority to do that kind of thing, to give discounts. There are some categories where you can do it, but so that's where our practice has been. Just really generally, we don't have an application process, we don't have a budgeted line item, we don't have an expectation built in the community that we're going to do that. It's just every once in a while the pieces come together and it makes sense. The county's different, although I'm not sure how active their program is anymore. It was definitely active for some time, where they have and they still have an application process and a policy where organizations can ask them for donations. And the donations are for things that they're legally able to spend money on, and they have to justify what it's doing for the community and stuff like that. But I don't know if they have any money budgeted for it. And they had a really tough conversation some years ago about mandated versus non-mandated spending, and this was definitely one of the places where that conversation lived, was donations for local organizations are not mandated.
It would appear that some of them, I'm looking to get this info, are things that then or actually go through a specific department as opposed to the county as a whole. Like
Okay.
Health and Human Services, if they were to do that. They said even there was some stuff coming from Parks and Trails, so it would be within a department, which I'm assuming means it has something to related to that department's work. So.
One of the reasons this is on the agenda is because, frankly, we expect there to be a lot more requests. Given the nature of federal funding these days, that a lot of these organizations we're using, not gonna be there anymore. And they're gonna be looking to other places. So it's worth our time thinking about, do we want to be one of those places that they're looking to, or do we not?
It's worth noting that, I mean, we also rely on federal funding in the form of grant and aid, right? So, we're kinda all in that one together,
Yeah,
right? We don't know if the heating system is gonna be covered, for example. We hope it is.
Yeah.
We don't know.
don't know.
We don't know what the, how much money we're gonna be able to get for wastewater treatment, for example. So, it's difficult to say, yeah, we wanna, I mean, obviously we wanna stand up and support local people, but, we're gonna be taking some shots too.
Yeah, although I think, it would be smart to just, even when the one, even if it's backed over once in a blue moon, like maybe these don't show up, it'd still be good to have a policy of like, here are the things we would and here are the things we wouldn't, kind of a thing, just to give us a guide, so like something pops up and we go like, yeah, that seems like that's something we would consider. And I think that's where the conversation is, say that much.
To me then,
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Can't be picky.
I think you already addressed this, but I just wanted to make the point. So the general presumption is you can't donate. I mean, that's really the general legal presumption. And then there are exceptions to the general legal presumption, which would be like for donations to arts organizations. There's a specific statute that allows that, and we just did that relatively recently. And, so for that kind of thing, so in terms of like setting up a policy or, doing that kind of things about what you would donate to, it is more difficult to be able to do that because it really is sort of identifying the laws that are available under which you could donate, like the arts organization type of donation. So anyway, just wanted to make that comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
I-
Chris. So
I think
really
that's
the
useful.
guy.
Mhm.
So that's really the guy.
But if you wanted a policy, what he's saying is, and what I think is right, you would base it on the few limited things that you do have statutory authority to fund.
Right.
You also have to base it on, it serves an actual public purpose.
Yeah.
Well, and that, thanks to LMC, is outlined in here
Yeah,
pretty well.
Mhm.
About, and you're right, then we'd have to, like Chris said, bake that into it. And that would think that's policy would be important just for that reason, so people could clearly understand later if we said yes to something and no to something, exactly why we did it. It'd be a lot easier to have that
To point to that and
outlined,
say-
yeah, bullet point.
And they can see it ahead of time too, like,
Yeah.
when we do, here's the world in which we can
Mhm.
get
And
that.
some of these types of organizations, we do give them money if they're advertising for us.
right,
So there's other methods,
yes, the buying services. And again, we don't have the statutory authority to be members of the chamber, but we do have authority to enter into a service agreement with the chamber to provide us with things that we value that serve a public purpose and pay for those.
Mhm.
It's a lot like a membership, but it's distinctly different enough from a legal perspective. We can't just give them money and say, thanks for all the good things you do. We actually have to say, here they are, the good things that you do for us, and that we value them, and that we say that they are a public purpose, and we're willing to pay this much for them.
Which I still think it's just using different words to basically get a service provided, or in other cases, we're really being asked to help fund something. I think, in most instances. And it does list out, what is a public purpose is in there, and then I think the list after that. And in part of it, advertising. Well, then we add, when you say advertising, are you mostly thinking of our businesses?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, that feels different too, because obviously the golf course and the campground would want to be advertising, like any business.
yeah, I don't know if we have authority to just advertise for the city of Grand Marais. I don't think we do, but we definitely do for the campground, for the liquor store, for the marina, for the golf course, for those activities that there's a clear business purpose. It's a good investment, frankly, and we do. But that advertising is underwriting, right? So we might get a sign up at their event, or we might get put into their schedule with other advertisers, or we're going to be mentioned on the radio station
Well,
every
and-
once in a while, as other advertisers would.
Yeah, doesn't Dave have other pieces within the tourism organization that he makes sure they're placed out?
Yeah, we put advertisements in literature and in websites and other things.
Brochure space
Yeah.
and maps and.
Yeah,
Sometimes those look a little bit like donations too, because it's like a nonprofit putting on an event and they're asking all the businesses in town to sponsor the event. Well, we can't just sponsor an event without getting something in advertising in return for it. So we do the same thing that other businesses do, but we just have to make sure there's that legal authority to make that payment.
and there are certain other amenities, not that we do, like community centers, but that at this point is a county piece. Well, I don't know, maybe you guys already read this list, but food shelves, donations by fire, solicitation, the firefighters can solicit. And then some of them just almost begin to feel like regular costs we would have anyways, just running the operations.
Yeah,
That list is pretty extensive, but I think it gets beyond what we're really talking about.
the concept of providing a donation to a local nonprofit isn't different than entering into a service agreement. So you're giving them money, they're doing a service that you value. I think the you giving them money part is you deciding it's part of your responsibility to provide that service as well, or you're willing to take it on as part of your responsibility. And that's where it gets tricky, because, yeah, like the food shelf would be a great example of that. Who doesn't want to support the food shelf? I'm sure somebody doesn't, right? But is that something that the city wants to take on as its responsibility? That's up to you to decide.
Well, I think there's a difference between a responsibility that says it's a budget line item every year versus an ask
Yeah,
for that. I
Yeah.
mean, well, and there's community celebrations, and it does say that cities that hold community events, it's common for the city to ask a community organization to organize and hold the event. So that starts to feel a little bit broader than I would have guessed, as opposed to a city organizing the event. I don't know that we do any. They're basically mostly done, I suppose, by BCC. We don't have a cemetery. We don't really do a lot with economic development except through our association with the county, right? Like the pages. We don't have we're not responsible for a county fair. And historical celebrations, but we don't think we've done any. Maybe we will in some magic year of the city, but.
Right.
So there was one person that said, we should think about a policy. Is that Are there others that think that? Do we need to do a little more work to bring it back, or is there some more conversation about that?
I mean, I guess, man, I don't, I mean, it just seems like if are gonna have more solicitations, it would be nice just to have something in black and white that we can say like, here's the legal about it, just so you know, so when you're asking, if you don't fall into these categories, you're probably not gonna get a yes.
To outline it. And just to even back that up one then, is there an interest in potentially allocating money in our budget for things that do apply? Is that the way you're gonna say that?
Sure.
I mean, I suppose we put the fireworks in there, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I'd want more just to see where this goes. I mean, we don't know what this will look like, I guess. Like, I wouldn't want to just put a line in the budget willy-nilly. I'd rather have some more information ahead of time, and we can just start conservative and see how things go. So I guess and as far as the line item, I'm not sure, but, you know.
What I like about a line item is you're setting real clear limits on what you're gonna provide, as opposed to if you don't have an item, you don't know what the number is gonna be. It could be, you might just keep getting great idea after great idea and you don't know when to stop that.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, whatever you want that number to be, there will be appetite for it.
Yeah, once you set a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, you do something or you can't. It's almost like then you have to even have a process for when you will do it, because otherwise it's a race to see who gets enough. Well, now the money's gone and it's month number 2 of the budget for the year.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You have to have a process about when you will look at it. Oh, we'll look at this quarterly and that much is available. So, I don't know, just throwing something out, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise it'll be a race.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think it's a slippery slope. I mean, I understand people come and ask all the time, but I do look, our practice has been not to provide donations for just that reason. There's limited things we can donate to, really. And a lot of times it's one-time deals like the fireworks, something like that, that benefits the whole city. You know, if you're gonna donate to certain nonprofits that come in, some of the nonprofits may not really support everybody in the community, you know? So how do you filter through that? You know, so if you just have a policy that says we don't provide donations, I mean, I'm just thinking that's kind of like, I'm not trying to take the easy way out here, but I'm trying to take the less controversial way out maybe, that we might get ourselves into some debates over something we do or we did, and then we have to do it and budget for it, and who do you budget for it, like Tracy said, I mean, you know, I don't know, I'm just looking at.
I don't
That
think
aspect
that
of it.
fireworks is a donation either.
Well, no, I don't
Really, it's a
think-
donation to the city, not
It's
from the
something
city.
new, I think, just because, yeah. Most cities probably already have a firework budget.
I think a lot of cities do it the way we do it, which is
Yeah.
there is a community organization that's putting on an event, is raising money, and it's really that community spirit, that the business community that is funding it. That's probably the most common model
Yeah,
that's happening here.
yeah. No, I
And technically this year
think
really
it's fine, I'm
was
not against that decision we made.
the city, because no longer was the Lions Club doing 4th of July. And we don't really have any other big events for 4th of July, that's really it. If we actually had a whole city's worth of events that day, but we don't. But anyways,
So I think, I mean, I understand that there's clear guidelines about what what can and cannot be spent on what, and I think that that's helpful, and certainly
Yeah.
looking at this to another level or having another discussion about it, I'm be open to that. Being in business, I can tell you there are not very many weeks where somebody is not asking for something from a business, a nonprofit, whatever, and so be careful what you wish for, cause you may well get it. And then keeping that in mind that, yeah, I mean, if you wanna compete for a small budget, I mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta support it, right, and are we wanting to support it? That's the question I've got, and to what cost, but then, what are our priorities, right? And are there other things that we wanna see when we go through a council priority session, there's only so many dollars.
Right.
And so, it's always good to have a conversation about it and see what that would look like, but.
Yeah, although I do like what Craig was saying too. I mean, I don't know that we should have a policy of nothing, but maybe as it is, as the legal statute is, and maybe we wait and see what comes our way, you know, but, you know, cause maybe somebody comes to us and they're not getting funded, and it is something that we decide is our priority, like we do care about it, or we do wanna support it. And so maybe that's the way to do it, is just experientially, like.
Yeah.
we've
The
had
policy
these-
isn't really a policy, it's our practices, we don't. There will be exceptions.
Right.
I guess, and that's where I don't wanna get I get what you're saying,
Yeah,
I just
we
don't
want to
wanna
spell
get caught.
Okay, I mean.
Yeah,
So I don't know, I know what you're saying too, what do we have a feel for it, you know, what does it really mean? But in the same vein, I don't want, when that specific item comes up, we're sitting here going, you know, now we know a lot more
Right,
already than we
right,
did
that's-
before.
yeah.
That's a good point.
But we really need to know, cause as Craig said, there'll still be a value judgment placed on our decision.
So maybe,
And so we need to understand it really well if we take that path.
And maybe moreover, the deeper context is like, we would like to abstain from those value judgments altogether.
It would be the easiest, well, I'm not saying the easiest, I'm just saying that the less controversial way, because you are spending everybody's tax dollars. Not just this group of people or that group of people or this group or that group or where you live here or how old you are, how young you are, whatever. It's everybody's money and we're given the responsibility to budget it and to spend it wisely. And maybe that type of thing doesn't necessarily belong in our budget. Maybe it does, but then at what rate and when does it get gifted out or doled out, or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just trying to keep it.
Well, there's probably
More of a
lots of
city-
expenditures that come through our budget that
Well,
are
they-
budgeted, right? There's-
Right.
there's
For
just
sure.
right?
And a lot of them,
There's
and a lot of them
just
filter through different
We're
departments.
gonna go buy a
Mhm.
restaurant trailer, we're gonna do whatever, right? Like,
Right.
But
Right.
that's city operations versus,
But somebody might ask the rec park to do something, to donate to something. Well, then they may, will run it to the park board, maybe the park board then will go to the city and say, hey, can we do this or can we not do this? You know,
I mean, one way to
That's the
keep the
proper
door
channel, I
open,
guess.
but not invite, is to say no donations, we don't do donations.
Yeah.
We do enter into service agreements. So if someone is providing a service that they think we might value and they
Right.
wanna try to enter into a service agreement with you, we can have that conversation. And then it fits into the, where is it on your priority list?
Right.
And that, I mean, maybe you still need to have that criteria set for you to evaluate it.
it dresses it up, but it's exactly what you just said, we still need to know the criteria that we would use to do that, and part of it would still get us back to these items,
Yeah, always starts with that.
so.
yeah, so maybe no matter what, we gotta craft that.
Alright, well, it'll be on our list. It's not gonna come in 2 weeks for you to look at again, but it'll come back again this year. with some ideas about how to move that conversation forward.
Great.
Well, if it's a service agreement type thing, then maybe you make it more, it's, you know, you just don't come in and ask for money and then say thank you and walk out the door. You come in, oh, well, here's a service agreement we have to enter in with you, you've gotta prove to us that this is actually a value decision that we need to make on behalf of your organization because you are, you know, this is for the betterment of every taxpayer in the community, it's a great thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that
It's more
you're
a
trying to
process than
describe
just
the
a-
criteria now, which is good, that's the
Right.
way to think about it, and that was still pretty general and high level. And I think we can do better even with just the work you've already done on priorities, of describing what things you might be more interested in hearing about versus not really interested in.
Partially because it's pretty well defined.
Yeah,
If we just take this, but that for me still means a dollar amount. Or if we just randomly, if someone comes in and says it's this dollar amount, we've sort of, without even trying, given people an idea about what we're willing to do, right? And is there a point where it's like, this is it per ask, or I don't know how to say that, you know? And then you get to that point regardless, I don't know how to do that, you know what I mean?
But then, yeah, no, sorry. I guess.
Well, and needs arise when needs arise too, it's not just that we meet the deadline, but they're in crisis, well, then what's the point of all this if we can't support the ones that are really needing help?
And something like a service
Yeah.
agreement could be great, I mean, that could be something we do want to.
So you don't want to operate like a revolving loan fund that runs out of money after the first application.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
doesn't do the rest of the community any service, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially if they don't get,
Right.
if they default to that.
Just keep in mind, we looked at our budget, administrative line items where this might live, it's not there, like, we don't have one right now. It's not in the budget. Also keep in mind, the budget is a planning document, it is not the thing that will happen next year. It's just, we're trying to set the levy for next year with this budget, we're trying to set our rates for the next year with this budget. And things do come up all the time that we didn't budget for, didn't anticipate, and really on both sides of the ledger.
So are we saying that we would like to, using the rules, have a summary that's easier to read, that describes the possibilities that we could legally do? This is just so they know what to do, or we don't want to and say it's not our policy? Do we want some opening for that? Like you said, if there's a real need? I'm just trying to
Yeah,
figure
they're
out.
all real needs. Here's what my intention is right now.
Summarize.
Maybe that for you to work off of,
Yeah.
is the legal authority is the full outside boundary of this, and that what your policy would be is even narrower than that, like significantly narrower than that. And it would be narrowed based on what are you saying your priorities are, what are we spending our time working on right now, where are areas where we might actually be willing to or perceive some value in partnerships with local organizations. And not donations, everybody apply for money, but here's what our priorities are, if you think they line up with yours, we're open to a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look at anything, for sure.
Like that.
Where does that leave it in the sense of dollars? I mean, I know you just said the budget's a tool, and I get all that, but it still has to have some grounding, I think.
We can try to add a piece to that. I mean, there's no fixed amount that I would think is, that's anything but arbitrary, right?
Right.
And yet, our budget is what it is. Somebody couldn't come and ask you for $100,000 next year and have that be reasonable. You know, you can't make that kind of a change. So, but I say that, but I guess you really could if you needed to. So there's no real good way to put some useful bumpers on that without inviting that amount to be asked for. So you'll have to decide if that's what you want to see.
This doesn't feel like it's moved quite as far along as I thought.
Well, it's hard to, it's hard to.
It's
It's hard to
important, I
move
mean,
the
we've
needle
thought
on it
through a lot
because,
of
you know, I think as a
important
city
stuff.
government, you wanna be somewhat forceful in the fact that there's very limited things we can give money to as people come and ask for it, you know? I mean,
I think the
Yeah.
justification for that, that's our current practice, right? And the
yeah,
justification for that is really twofold. It's the whole conversation about, you know, we're taking everybody's money to buy these things.
right,
And that's a powerful thing. We have to be really judicious about that. And the other one is we've got priorities. Like, we have to do these things. These are our responsibility, our mission. And some of this other stuff really isn't. So I think it's perfectly justifiable to stay right where we're at, which is we're not doing donations. You know, if there might be exceptions to that, where money shows up that we didn't know about and it's specifically programmed for a thing. And that's, I mean, it's not like we're gonna have a policy that can never, ever, ever be adjusted. But our intention right now is not to start a program. I think, you know, when we're talking about creating criteria, that's heading down the road of starting a program, and maybe we don't even wanna do that.
I always like to tell people that, you know, we're basically running an operation here. And that mostly usually comes when people start talking about political stuff. And I said, no, that's not why we're here. We're making sure a city runs. You know, make sure we have the lights turned on in the streets and all the key things. That's why we're here. And I don't know if that logic then applies over to something like this, to say that's our main, besides our city, it kind of falls in line with the comment about city priorities, but we run an operation. I don't know, and obviously when you read this, things celebrating a city and creating community are clearly in here, just by the fact of arts and city celebrations, historical, whatever, but I think that's where my thoughts go initially, and then reading this, it broadens it a little bit when you think of those things. Are we really saying we need more time to ponder this?
Well, I don't have a real good sense as far as what the budget looks like yet for this year, and I know we talked about it in pretty good detail, and it seems like it's positive, at least from my perspective, but I don't have a real good sense, and I do have other questions about some monies that, you know, wastewater wise. I mean, are we setting aside some monies now? Are we planning those? I mean, we know it's coming, so what are we doing specifically to brace ourselves for a massive project?
That
So,
comes in our
to-
next meetings, right?
You're right. So I mean, I
Well,
just
no,
need, I need more
they don't come to
pieces,
you, right?
you know, before I just say, well, yeah, no, I think we should have $100,000 budget or $50,000, and it's like, let's do that, because we know what $50,000 can do over a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year period of time to secure bonding on a bigger project. We know, because we've done that, so that's a better community use to me than a short term, maybe, you know, I don't know, I can.
I think that's right on with grounding in what your role and your mission is to think about. Imagine how much time it's gonna take for you to have to sort through, you know, lots of really great ideas for small amounts of money versus spending that time working on how do we get the $10 to $15 million we're gonna need in the next 10 years to do that big thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good perspective.
Not that they're mutually exclusive, I don't believe that either, so, but I just have to get my head around what are we doing on that?
Yeah.
Well, we keep that in mind, get a little closer on the budget,
Yeah.
and get a summary that would let us look to see what would that actually look like if we had that. Is that enough to help us make
Sure.
a decision, or not.
Mhm.
And then we can still ponder everything everyone else has said from Craig's points, you know, everyone's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is that,
I mean, having spent actually quite a bit of time with the league's memo on this over the last 30 years, I don't know if there's a summary better than what they've already done.
well, I just meant pull out, you know, just take the key things that apply. 'Cause
I
a
think,
lot
I
of
mean, I
this
think
is
they
there.
already did it, is what I'm trying to say. There's a million key things that already apply. There's a lot, it's pretty complex that they've boiled down to 6 or 7 pages, right? And I don't know if it boils down more than that.
Well, it does according to my
I
highlight.
thought that maybe if you took over, like, your take on what council priorities and what we've been talking about,
Yeah.
openly, you know, over the course of the last 3-4 years, whatever it is, like, I think you can narrow it down further. And that's what I'd be interested in maybe seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, that's was my intention before, so let's, what you're saying now is let's continue work on the budget, get a little more familiar with that, and then come revisit this conversation with a slightly more focused view.
Yeah, see how we feel now we've had a chance to really think it through
Yeah.
and hear what everyone, well, minus Bill, of course, tonight.
Yeah,
But,
he's probably gonna have a lot of great things to say about that too, I'm sure he understands.
oddly, the more you try to define it, the scarier it gets.
I mean, honestly, I think there's a lot of very savvy folks working for organizations in this community that will not have a hard time reading that memo and justifying their ask. So,
Well, let's face it, you know, the city, the county really don't have big budgets and big departments. So much gets done in this community. It is absolutely amazing for the size and the amount of people we have here, but it's because of all the nonprofits and all the hard work that they do. Many small communities don't offer or do near what we do in this community.
Yeah.
And it's really because of all of their hard work. I think we've done, I think the people who live in this county and this city really work super hard to make this a good place to live. But extra cash flow, I'm not sure about.
Well, my thinking here is off the cuff, I'm thinking, you know, if I was working for a nonprofit to go raise funds for them to, city government doesn't seem to be the first door I'm gonna knock on. That's kind of where I'm thinking. Now, if they get, you know, so many of them function because of large donors, and usually those large donors are either individuals or they're corporations or companies that have endowment funds set up for the things that they're looking for, asking for, the money they give every year for certain things, whether it's, you know, a whole huge array of things. We're not in that business. And so when they come in and ask, they're kind of putting us in that business, which is a tough spot. That's why we can't sit here and decide how much money we want to do, blah, 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 because it really isn't our game, you know. But it can become because, you know, then we have to have rules and regulations to why we're not in that game. And I think that's the biggest thing is, why aren't we in that game? Well, because it doesn't serve, I don't think it serves our purpose to be in that type of game, unless it's a specific need that really is something that is city orientated, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Very narrow, very focused. That we can't get in trouble making a decision on something like that.
Well, it's really hard to just say no, 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 though, isn't it? Because there's always the unless, there's always the exception.
Well, look who just came back.
Well, you know, that's the way it is.
Yeah,
If you're raising money, you're getting a lot of no's and you're hopefully getting a lot of checks besides the no's, so I mean, that's how that game works, you know. I don't know, that's just my feeling of how I view the city.
Okay, well, good point. Timing's impeccable, Bill.
Yeah, I see that.
Anyway,
You were just wrapping up the conversation on donations and discounts.
Yeah.
Did you already have some comments already to go on that you wanted to offer?
I really don't.
I don't think we should be passing up solid income for the city necessarily by offering a discount.
Yeah, and most of this was really focused on requests for donations. And the other piece, but didn't know. Would you like oh boy, I don't even know if I could do it. A summary of what we
You can watch
said
YouTube later.
so far,
Yeah,
yeah.
To watch
He does
YouTube
watch
on
that.
YouTube.
Yeah. Watch that one later
Oh boy.
and see. We've had, I think we had a
10-second
discussion.
summary. People aren't sure it's our job to do it, but there is a recognition that there might be some appropriate asks that if they meet our mission, and we have some more work to do to think about that.
Yeah. Summary.
Check.
And I don't know, did you have a chance to read the LMC's guidelines for us? Some of them are very much legal. That was a link, you'd
Yeah.
have to open it. But anyways, take a look at that too. All right, with Bill's arrival, and that your ability to watch this later, and let us do as you suggested, Mike, though I think we have a kind of bend going here, but we'll just kind of go with it and it won't be anything immediate, right?
Right.
I mean, like next meeting.
More work on the budget first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the budget,
Budget.
all of that. All right, thanks, everyone. Oh, boy. Did you want to talk more about the budget?
I wanna go through the couple of revenue items that we didn't have a chance to. It won't take long, so
So that
back
sheet
to this
again?
general fund revenues
Okay.
sheet,
Go back.
the last 2 pages. The electric franchise fees is the 4th line item, it says 70,000, right now the formula is $40,000 plus 1% of electric service fees, which is, as you can see, approximately $70,000, it might be a little more than that this year. This is a line item that we've talked about in the past, that this could be more. This ends up being 2.5% of our take, the electric fees, and really it could be as much as 5 before rating agencies are going to start looking at the amount the electric department is contributing and being concerned about it. So this is one place we talked about making additional transfers into the general fund. I think maybe now that the building is here, it's more appropriate to just look at the rent payment for the use of the space that's new. That's probably an easier way to explain it, so maybe we won't continue to talk about the franchise fee, but this is another option for us. Scroll down to local government aid, 2026 amount is $52,684. You can see 2024 was almost 80, 2025 66, so it's not trending up for us. To put that in perspective, 20 years ago, this number was $360,000. So we've done a lot of work already, weaning ourselves off of the expectation of getting any money from the state. Their formulas don't really support us because we don't have a huge amount of old homes. We don't have a lot of the other factors that they look at that generate this, even though I think we can make a huge argument for a state need based on the way that the community's being used by the state, it's just not there. Scroll down to interest earnings, this one's also one worth noting. We had $100,000 of interest in 2024, so for many years we didn't even look at this line item because nobody was paying any interest. Now it's noticeable. It's a combination of we've got decent reserves and there's actually rates, so that's good. Let's turn the page. We already looked at the county fire service agreement. 48,000 is the number that's in there, that we don't know if that's exactly what it's gonna be, and we probably won't know until after you have to set the preliminary levy, so we keep it kind of on the low end. But you can see it was 46.5, then 47.8, And so far in 2025, it's 28.8, so that's half of the amount, so it's quite a bit more in 2025. We'll see how the calls turn out, and that might change that. Small cities assistance for highway, streets, and roads. One of the reasons why the local government aid number went down is because this thing exists now. But I don't know how to count on this. I certainly wouldn't want to build a long-term budget around this existing, because it's not been around that long, and I don't know what kind of political support it has in the future. But in the meantime, there it is, we're happy to get it.
The back page? It's on the back 2 pages.
And that's it for our revenue sources. In 2 weeks, when Dave and Paul are here, we'll get to talk about the real revenue sources in the general fund.
So that
That's fine.
was done?
That's
Okay,
it.
thank you. Council and staff reports, nothing?
No.
Okay, Bill?
I do, from the Arrowhead Animal Rescue. It's a slow go. They're still having trouble with the wet conditions. And they still don't have a firm timeline. They are talking about putting in rock and doing their concrete pours for their footings and so forth. But they're kind of in the doldrums, I guess, as far as when this is gonna happen. They're really hoping that before freeze up, they'll have the thing together and leveled up and be able to work inside.
Okay, here's the idiot question then. Is that thing still sitting off to the side and it's not in its permanent spot?
It is in its permanent spot, kind of.
But it's kind of all askew. It's still in 2 halves.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't put it together yet.
And it's not
Nose
sitting on its
downhill a little
permanent
bit.
rest.
Okay. Alright, so it's not completely in place.
No.
Okay.
I've seen, stranger outfits though. You could use it for something right now if you really needed to.
You could, oh yeah.
Just be a little strange.
Okay. But they're slow but sure?
It's a little disturbing though to look at how much time and effort has gone into it and hear it sit. But I mean, they're kind of at the mercy of all the contractors are busy and they're kind of trying to self-contract it in a way.
Oh,
When they got jobs that
yeah.
it's only so much one guy can do.
Right. Okay, thank you. Ben?
Let's see, no planning and zoning, we had HR, I don't think if there's anything, I think there's gonna be more conversation coming to the city council soon from HR, so I think I'll hold on till we're.
Yeah, we'll update on a new timeline for the annual review process.
Yeah.
And we'll have some new job descriptions that the council will have to review and approve as part of this whole process. I'm trying to think of,
And
oh,
then merit matrix, right?
yep.
So for moving supervisory positions to merit-based, at least as part of their pay
Right,
increase, there'll be a matrix, so that budget is being decided and how that'll play out. So we'll be able to approve it and look at that, explain that, hopefully.
Boy,
Great.
handbook is going to be in process.
Okay.
So that'll be good. So
Yeah.
we'll-
A lot of good work, that handbook from the 98, I think it was 98,
1990.
1990?
I'm sure some of it's older than that.
Yeah.
But some of those things have changed.
Would be
Some of them
a
have.
really great outline for what the handbook's gonna look like, and so there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Craig?
I don't know anything
Okay.
this week.
If you have not already heard, we got on the bonding tour. We'll be here October 8th, it's a Wednesday, right?
It's a city council meeting day.
From 2 to 3:15, they all come in a bus. And we still have to figure out exactly where they'll start here,
Okay.
some refreshments and a bathroom break, possibly over to look at the wastewater treatment plant. We're
I
not
think that's
sure.
the only thing that they're gonna be doing in town is we're gonna take them over there and look at that.
Okay,
And then we have some more planning to do with how we wanna pull that together, but it's great news.
we'll have to drive by the mural, I think. So everyone on the right-hand
Yes.
side of the bus can look at the mural. Are they gonna like drive around town or anything? No.
We've got some planning to do.
Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, question, when was the last time our zoning was looked at in coordination with the North Shore Management Board's updates? For our late updates.
Oh,
Okay, I got the answer, thanks.
What?
They're doing
It's
some
not never.
it's not.
They did a pretty significant update, I don't remember how many years ago now.
We're getting some updates right now.
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
last session where you went through the updates, we did review all of our, I mean, they did with us review all of our ordinances.
Okay. And then just quickly, if you've also not heard, we had our EDA meeting, and there is an offer in the works for the golf course. And that offer sits from Brady Hatcher, who owns the Golden Eagle Lodge and Golf Resort down by the Brainerd Lakes area. So, we've given them approval to continue that process. There's lots of logistics to go through still, but, that's pretty huge news. That's all I got. So that means, Mike?
Oh, I'm glad you brought up the bonding. I also wanted to note that both Senators Klobuchar and Smith have included an amount for us in their ask for congressional directed spending for the wastewater plant. It's something that still has to be in a final bill and then has to be passed, and then the House has to do it too, and it has to be signed. So we're a long ways away from that money actually being appropriated. But this is a great step. We've been asking for a couple of years running now. This is the first time that they've supported it, and it's gotten a lot further this time, and we're really appreciative of that. And so there's been great movement on this project.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we had that little walkthrough meeting with, the engineers from Stantec
Mhm.
Monday?
Yesterday.
Oh my gosh. For the little project on, Boulder Park, we met with the Stantec engineers.
The erosion control on the harbor side.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they're gonna get started on that. Took water samples and they're coming up to do some other measurements, they said in person.
And they need to see some stuff we might have in terms of plans and things.
Yeah, so that's good.
We also might mention about the water line inspection people that
Oh,
are going
yeah.
out next week.
You've seen notice of this, I hope. We have a couple of folks that work for AE2S, an engineering company. They're working for us on going around the community and collecting information on the material that water service lines are made out of. If you see them, their pictures are, we've posted their pictures around so that they won't be a stranger. You know who they are. If you're comfortable with them looking at the line themselves, that's great. If you're not, they've got ways for you to just go ahead and take a picture of it and fill out a form online and get us the information a different way. But as much cooperation as we can get from folks to help meet this state program for us to be collecting information on water service line materials.
Can people schedule a time with them? Or is it,
Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm not sure.
They can call and request, we can
oh, okay.
try to coordinate.
So that'd be a time if someone's home or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, cool. That was an important one to say.
Yeah.
Big meeting, so thanks. Alright, anything else? Alright, hey, we're done. Aren't you glad you came back?
Have a good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
I knew that was bound to happen
Fast with dust.
sooner or later. Gamble all the time, you know.
Put me up to my front room,
Yeah.
dust in the-